China appears to be building an airstrip on the disputed South China Sea island. Well, this is no surprise. I have covered all of the stories regarding the South China Sea and the Spratly Islands, but really not surprised to see specifically a new island. We actually covered before that they came up with a technology to dredge the bottom of the ocean twice as fast as they used to be able to do. So if you don't know about the Spratly Islands, they essentially, some of them were kind of a little piece of rock sticking out of the water. Some of them were literally a mound, something where you would look at a Scott Adams cartoon of a castaway and see a single man standing with a single tree, and they turned it into a forward operating base. There are already, I believe, 7, and now I believe this is number 8, and they have essentially made all of these into straight-up operating bases. These all have airstrips, they have air defense, they have warehouses, they have manufacturing warehouses in some cases, they have ammunition depots, they have ports, they have everything. They even have long-range cannons. So these are literal bases out in the middle of the sea. Why? I think it's because they are getting ready for a massive war. It's not just going to be Taiwan. My thoughts are they are going for world domination. That's my opinion, again, based off of what I have seen for the last 5 years. As far as the dredging that they're doing, they came up with this new dredger that could do it twice as fast. And I said, of course they're going to be making more islands. They're making them from scratch. They are literally taking the dirt from the bottom of the ocean and they pile it up using a special boat that sucks the sand off of the bottom of the ocean and then puts it somewhere else. It's kind of like if you've ever seen that kid's sand toy that you put the sand in the water and you can pile it up and it stays sand, or it turns into sand when you pull it out of the water. You envision that and then pile it all the way up to the top of the fish tank until you have something you can stand on. Then you put some asphalt on it and cover it, and then put a base and put soldiers and put Navy boats. That's what they have done, and that's what they are doing. I believe it is because they needed somewhat of a midway point. Obviously, we were always geographically protected here in the U.S., and I think we are their number one enemy right now. We were always geographically protected by how far we were from China. If you have a space it may not be an exact midpoint, but if you have a space where you can refuel and rearm yourself, then that would be something that would be extremely helpful. And that's exactly what they've done. China appears to be constructing an airstrip on disputed South China Sea island that is claimed by Vietnam and Taiwan, according to satellite photos analyzed by the Associated Press. Mind you, this is also putting up land where they can then claim this is part of China. And then if it is accepted, or if they just bully their way in, then the ocean surrounding this island will be theirs. In fact, this might be even a side or plan B plan to try to gain more land, and essentially not a land grab, a land make. It says the work on Triton Island in the Paracel Group mirrors construction on 7 human-made islands in the Spratly Group to the east, which have been equipped with airstrips, docks, and military systems, although it currently appears to be somewhat more modest in scale. China claims virtually the entire South China Sea as its own, denying the claims of others and defying the international ruling, validating its assertion. Satellite photos from Planet Labs PBC, analyzed by the AP, shows construction on the airstrip, first visible in early August. The runway, as currently laid out, would be more than 600 meters or 2,000 feet long in length, long enough to accommodate turboprop aircraft and drones, but not fighter jets or bombers. Isn't that interesting? So the specific length of this is not for the big planes. These are for literal drones. Why would they be using those? Mind you, the drone technology and how far they can go has absolutely I don't even know what the word for is, 12x'd in the last few years. Now these things can get hundreds, if not thousands of miles away. So this is not a good sign. Here's a photo of what it is. And again, all of the other islands are pretty insane. They even have apartment buildings there. People are living on these islands right now. These are forward operating bases. Again, this is not a good sign. There's a helipad there you can actually see. I don't know if you can see that right there. And this is just the start of it. For size comparison, these are large warehouse type buildings. These are containers over here on the left side, kind of in this outstretched part of this. So this is a huge island. This helipad is actually a military, probably a 80-foot helipad. So this is like huge. Not to mention radar domes already put into place. If you can see that, that looks like a radar dome to me. What does it look like to you? Not to mention, all of the living space looks like houses for the construction workers / soldiers. I don't know what the heck they're doing there, but they are making, of course, runways. They may make several, but this starts out as dirt. They dredge it, and they essentially make it bigger and bigger and bigger. They're also going to be making ports so ships can plot there. They are the largest navy in the world now. What do you think about this? Let me know in the comments down below. We'll touch on this and much, much more tonight on Marfoogle TV. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in the show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, a.k.a. Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. We're going to touch on the islands, but real quick, I do want to remind you, if you are new here, you can always go over to marfooglenews.com and find a full bibliography of all of our sources. That means you're going to have every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that we're going to show you here today, and it's all organized by thumbnail. So just look for today's thumbnail, new forward operating base. This is a game changer. Alert, FOB construction. This will actually bring you to all of the links and all of our sources, so that way you can use it for your own videos, or you can, of course, use it and read it every day if you can't make the show. There's also the Overflow. All of this stuff at the very bottom is all of the web content, the stuff that will get you in a fight at a bar if you start talking about, and all of the stuff that just couldn't fit into the show. So make sure to go check that out. We'll talk about all of that at the very, very end. Also, tweets, videos, media, it's all there, so utilize it. It takes a lot of work to put it together, so make sure to utilize all of it. Not to mention, we're independent. If, again, you need to find any of the affiliates mentioned today, you can go over there and find them. Usually you get a discount for supporting and, of course, purchasing any of the affiliate items that we have here today. That's exactly what they are. It helps support us financially, and you get a big discount, and it's something that will probably either save your life or make your life more comfortable. Make sure to also go check out marfooglenews.com/friends. All of our wonderful mods are down there. They are all really, really great people. Not to mention, they are all creators in some right. So make sure to go check out Chance's books over on Amazon. Of course, you have all of the link trees for all of our other mods. You have Ilea does great channels. Trinity has a great channel. Wages shouldn't even be a mod. He is a full-blown large creator that has just fell in love with the people here, and he helps out. But he's got a channel almost at 60,000. Same with Trinity. Trinity's got a large channel now, and she is producing every day. So make sure to go subscribe to them. All right, let's bring in my co-host/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I am doing just fine.
So we have so the islands, right? So these islands I've talked about for years. We're going to talk about tonight. We did a video over on Marfoogle News, our other sister channel, about India, and I have been calling this out for years. And I'm confident enough to say that we are going to see in just a very short period. And by the way, I've talked to ex-military, I've talked to current military members. They agree with me. As far as India and China, there are a lot of signs to say that they are making some backdoor deals. India and China coming together is really something that most people really aren't studied up on, but most people go, well, from the front of the cover, it's something that they just don't think will happen. It's they have been enemies for a very, very long time. They are constantly fighting. And then even after there's these weird events where it looks like they're getting along, there's these weird events where they're not getting along, or they're fighting, or they're throwing each other off of cliffs. But I think something has changed, and I think that the motivation there for BRICS to work, India has to be able to work inside this circle with China, Russia, South Africa, and Brazil. So something is going on here, and I mark my words, it's going to happen, and I think that it's something that not a lot of people are going to agree with me on, but I've been seeing it for 5 years, and it's just more and more puzzle pieces are fitting into place. For this to work, as far as the whole BRICS and replacing the U.S. dollar, which many of us know they are trying to do, it would have to include India. So we'll talk about that. But this island, Dex, the Spratly Islands, something I have covered since before they existed, since they were a glimmer in their mother's eye. I don't know if that works, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, certainly. And, this new island that they're talking about, Triton here, a couple of questions that come to mind is like that runway, it's awfully short. Obviously, only drones and turboprops, as they describe. Now, that's fine for island hopping and going from one island to the other. And of course, there's a helipad on there, as you said. I just wonder if they would actually expand this. It doesn't look like they have much more room in length, but they could obviously make more since they like to make these islands. And then the other question is, where's the power? Where are they getting the energy here? I don't see a lot of solar capability on the island, so I wonder if they're laying lines out to these islands, or if they're just running small, generators and running off of coal or some sort of fuel to power the island. But there's a massive ship there in port there as well, and like you said, a radar installation. So obviously, for a contested island, it seems like a lot has been built. For sure.
Yeah, I wonder if that could almost be coal or something, right? They could have they could be bringing coal from the mainland to power things, or some sort of, I don't know how they would do that either. I think they would be able to. No, I don't know. This is really far out. Solar or wind, whatever it may be. They could also add more airfields. Now, we say short, but as they said, 2,000 feet. A football field is 300 feet, so at least 7 football fields. So it's long, but it's not long enough for a Hercules type plane. I don't know what they called their version of their huge cargo planes.
It's not going to be an air base anytime soon, but it certainly has the capability of putting craft on it. And if those crafts are drones and it becomes a drone base, that would be really interesting. And does that give them a tactical advantage? With this location of having drones further out or in a further location to launch from. I think that's something that needs to be considered when you look at what they're doing with these islands. Now, ultimately, we've talked about how they would do island hopping to take Taiwan. Now, this isn't necessarily what we would say, because the island hopping they would do to take Taiwan is the islands right there off their shore, 100 miles off the coast. But if this is contested and it's Taiwan, and Taiwan says it's their island, and now China claims it, in effect, could be considered the first of the islands that they've taken from Taiwan. It's not that pivotal. It's more pivotal in a bigger picture in the military sense, but probably less pivotal in the sense of them actually taking Taiwan.
And I wonder, this must be the original part that was there, or I mean, obviously there was probably something here before. You can see, it looks like if they dredged the rest of this, they could fit more of these shorter airfields. It looks like a whole lot of space for that one airfield. So I bet this is all going to fill out. If you look at the other islands, which I put one of the largest, I believe it was the largest. It's kind of in the background of today's thumb. There is a whole kind of air traffic control system on the end of the island. If you look at the very, very top of that, and there is a giant airfield. So I mean, like they will have everything on these forward operating bases by the time they're done. The crazy part is how fast they are building them. Just 5 years ago, none of these existed. They're essentially making small cities out in the middle of the ocean in breakneck speed. Think about it. It's been 5 years. They have 7 essentially floating cities, and now they're going on 8. And it was August when they first kind of saw things going together. That's the thing. If they're able to do this now even twice as fast, think about where else they could make these. And then if they keep replicating this formula, they could then claim that land or claim that economic zone around this land. This is really, really freaky stuff. Any international ocean with where they could do this, they'll do it. Think about that. Dex, go ahead.
Exactly. And the other question that sort of comes to mind when you look at this, one thing, when you look at the pictures, that dark spot, is that all water or wetland? And maybe it's like an area that's sunken and has a lot of water, and that's why they didn't build there. And it sort of comes in. But that and the fact that they're expanding these, and we've seen them build like the ghost cities, right? And they really just put up a facade, right? A lot of them aren't even finished. Some of them are finished, and I don't want to completely dismiss it. They built a lot of these big buildings and made all this stuff, but then some of them they started it, got it up, got it looking pretty on the outside, and never finished the inside because nobody's moved there yet. They didn't finish them off. I wonder if they're using that same strategy on these islands, if they're just building enough to get a footprint and a claim and just the minimal of what they need, or are they investing heavily? My suspicion is they're investing heavily because it's probably militarized, as everyone keeps speculating. But it would be interesting to see up close if anybody ever gets the details that are on some of these islands, like how well fit are they, or are they just held together by shoestring and tin cans because they're just trying to make it look like they've got a presence on these islands so they can claim them.
Yeah, I don't know, and I've never heard, because the Ghost City too. There's like these complexes that are all, they have some finished out with some not. I've actually not heard that as a thing, that they're not finished out. I know that they're not like furnished or whatever, but I didn't know that. But as far as this goes, I don't think this is a facade. I think that these are military bases, and then with these islands, this is something that you would prepare. Somebody says, "Oh, I give it 20 years before they sink." Well, the thing is, this is shallow water, and this isn't floating. This is literally land. They dredge sand from other places, and they pile it up so much that this is now an official island. It can't sink. So somebody else said, the USA will find a way to sink it. I guess you could do some sort of tsunami bomb or something. But other than that, these aren't sinking. These are not floating. They have created islands. They've dredged dirt from other places in the ocean with these special boats, and then they have brought it here. They've dumped it so many times that it is now piled up and compacted down, and now it is land. It's very wild to think that they are even able to do this. That is so much actual land that they're moving to create these. If you look at the size of them, and I'm sure they're starting off with a little piece that's above water, and then they start from there and they expand it out. But how many places in the world that have these kind of conditions? There's a lot. So they could do this anywhere in international waters that has the right conditions. And obviously they don't care about international water rules. That they've made that clear. I think these are a forward operating base to cut the distance between us and China. I think that they are using this. At one point, somebody said, well, it's not the exact halfway point. I don't know. I know it's not the exact halfway, but it is definitely a lot closer to the USA than it is China to USA. Not to mention...
Definitely Australia.
Yeah, for sure. And then the technology on fuels and how much farther it goes, and then now the way that they have increased the distance that these boats and everything can go on very, very little is really impressive for the world in general. So I don't think we're geographically as safe as we think it is. And then also everybody says, oh, it's made in China, so it's going to fail. I really wish that wasn't a thing anymore. And I know why people have had that burnt into their heads. But if you know the Chinese people as a whole, they're very well educated. They are very dedicated to of course, schooling and after schooling. These are not stupid people. If you got cheap knockoffs from China, it's because they did that on purpose. They were trying to cut corners. When they don't cut corners, they do things right. And that's something that a lot of people won't accept. We know this because the U.S. military and U.S. and all other countries were sending extremely high-tech things to China to be manufactured. So not only did those companies from outside China that were saying, hey, we want cheap labor, they brought the technology that China needed to manufacture whatever they needed at low labor costs. And then they gave that technology, and I'm sure China utilized that and said, okay, we can make this technology too, and we copy this technology. It's not like they said, oh, here's a password, put it in. No, they gave them the ability to make all of these things. They make extremely high-tech stuff that is extremely high quality, and people just don't want to admit that that's a thing. They think, oh, it's made in China, it's going to fall out of the sky or something. I bet you their clones or whatever the things that they exactly replicated are planes. I bet you they went by the blueprints exactly and then called it something else. That might be a knockoff, but it's probably the exact replica of our jets and things like that. That's not good. If we have our jets fighting our jets, it will come down to the pilot or to the system or to faulty parts, which it turns out our jets were manufacturing our parts in China, which is pretty stupid. Yeah, let your adversary make your military gear. That's really, really smart. All right, and then let's see here. Thank you, Ilea. And I will, it says, I don't do this often, but can I please request all of our Foogle fam prayer warriors send up prayers for my beloved dog, Stella. She's very, very sick. Ilea, I'm sorry, and you know I'm having my issues too with the pup. I am praying for your dog, and again, that is very true. Ilea does not ask for prayers, and that says a lot. So please make sure to go and send some positive vibes and prayers to Ilea. Nana MT, nice to see you, changing it up. Nana, thank you so much for your massive support. Thank you for the super sticker, and thank you for supporting our independent channel. I appreciate that. And then Be Real Beast, thank you for your support as well through prayers. And then Samuel Turner says, keep up your extremely important work to let as many people as possible know to get ready and have at least some chance for survival. Keep on keeping on. And then Milo Whelms, I hope you're still here. I know that you stopped in right at the beginning of the show. Thank you for, again, supporting us right out of the gate. Thank you, and thank you. I can't say thank you enough to the people that support us, go through our affiliates, share our stuff out, share us on all their social media platforms, or even bring a person to the chat. We really we couldn't do it without that. So thank you. And a Maui miracle, another one. 60 wildfire survivors, well, quote, wildfire survivors are rescued from inside single house as death toll climbs to 106 and 1,300 still remain missing. So that's the thing. They are confirming that even through mainstream that 1,300 are still unaccounted for. It's been a week plus, and I know it's a disaster zone there, but you would think that, and I'm sure some of those people will be found. So hope to anybody that, some of your unaccounted for. When there's a disaster like this, Dex, it's really bad because it makes traveling around these areas harder. There could be buildings on roads. There could be roads that are shut down for various reasons. So it's harder to actually travel through these places to find people. This is a really big number of people. When we see the pictures, we just kind of see this football field area that was done. But these fires went all over the island. Like my sister texted me Kalapali, and I'm saying that wrong. There were several areas that were hit by this, and then it just kept going. So it's going to be hard to find it. 1,300 though. That's a lot of people.
It is, and the one question I have, and I've made an assumption that a lot of that number is travelers because so many people visit. They're on, Maui is a huge destination location for vacationers. So, what percentage of that 1,300 are locals that have an address there in Maui and live there or work there, versus how many of them are lists off of hotel registries or Airbnbs or other things like that that might have been vacationers that caught wind and said, hey, we're getting out of here, and they bail in a hurry, but nobody knows where they are, right? It's not like when they get home they're worried about checking in with the authorities in Maui. They just wanted to get out of there and get home. So I'm hopeful that that number is so large because it's full of them. I would hate it if that number is so large because it's full of locals that actually live there. Because if that many people are still remaining on a list, then the numbers are going to grow significantly. I have a sneaking suspicion.
And somebody said that there's at least 3,000 pets missing, and says basically unless there's 2 or 3 pets per person, that they think that it's going to be a lot more people, because that's probably, I don't know if that would equal though, because people probably did leave their pets, which is really sad. I wouldn't. I would do absolutely anything to get my animals, and but there's always those situations like where it's impossible. There have been many situations, and my friend who is a firefighter told me on a regular basis, they actually have the ability. They will grab you and put you on the ground if you try to go in your own house when it's on fire. Usually police are there, and police have, if you're going to put yourself in danger, they will tackle you. I know, I absolutely know there's a ton of people that they don't care if they're going to get burned. They will go in to get their dog or their cat. Like I that's why I feel for people like Aaliyah. If your dog's sick, things like this happen, they become part of your family. If you don't own, dogs and cats and things like that, then you probably don't understand. But if you do, then you do. But as far as the people that are still unaccounted for, that's a whole lot more. Katori, that was kind of pessimist to say the 13 will never be found. I hope that there's hope for these people. I know my sister and others have people that they still can't reach. My wife, her old chef at a restaurant she used to work for, he is still missing. There's a lot of people that are still missing, and it's kind of crazy how many people are affected by this. This is it's a part of America that is traveled to constantly. And, everybody and their mom goes to Hawaii for their vacations and things. So there's probably people all over the country that are hoping for their family members to come back. So I am praying right now. And again, just another whoever started it, whatever started it, either way, just a quick moment of silence for those who have been lost and those who have not been found. So I hope those of you who do pray, keep praying. Many people do not care when it's not something that affects them. But I'm sure you would love it if somebody was praying for you, if you were in that, if the tables were turned and it was you that was missing. Somebody said World War III ? I believe we are already in World War III. I don't think World War III is the end of the world. I have to say this constantly because we always have new people. But I honestly believe that World War III has already started, and that we are in the motions of World War III. World War III is not an apocalypse. It's not the end of the world. It is the start and the bringer of this new place, right? This new way of living. I think it's going to bring in everything. If you look at everything that's going on geopolitically, from our president getting charged to all of these other things, there is a much bigger picture at work right now, and it's absolutely terrifying. So I am telling people to prepare for absolutely anything and have at least a basic plan. It's nothing crazy. I'm not telling you to go dig a hole in your backyard and put your head in the sand until August 14th or something. I'm telling you, have a basic plan for anything, because CV-19 was not the end of the craziness. And then Dex, do you want to talk about the U.S. Army discovers new obstacle in using high energy laser weapons?
So as we've talked quite a bit about the advancement of these laser capabilities and energy based weapon systems, whether it be lasers or whether it be electromagnetic, which I guess they do different things and they're used for different purposes. But in this particular case, they're talking about the ones that they from the ground or on a ship they mount this laser system and they're using it to potentially disable drones, take down missiles or other things. The interesting thing is, as is the case with high tech, very high tech and new stuff, and I'm not talking like F-35s because airplanes are well known, but lasers are really a new thing for at least to us in the commonplace, but to the military themselves. And they're saying that because of that, they literally need like three systems to have one that works because there's so many components and so many potential variables that can break or go wrong with them. And they were also saying that it's very difficult to have staff and just have regular staff that can do general maintenance on this. They actually have to have these specialists that are experts. Obviously, people probably that work at the manufacturer that built this, whether it's Boeing or whoever. They need people that have that skill set and expertise on hand to be able to manage and maintain these because of the complexity. And it sounds probably more like the complexity comes with a lot of, um, I guess, inconsistency in their capabilities. So, and that's also the case you see when you have new tech like this, especially new advanced technology. So, rather interesting, position and what they're talking about as it relates to these, I guess they're kinetic lasers or the laser capabilities that they can take down things from the sky with. But it's interesting though to think about, it we think about what we see in the movies, a little handheld, laser stun system, like they're very simple, but in reality, they're really, really complex. They also require a huge power supply. So there's a lot that goes into them, and it was pretty fascinating that it's not just we got this great new tool and we put it on the side of the ship and it works great. It's sounds like it's a little bit more cumbersome than that.
Well, as far as lasers go, obviously it is the trending, not just lasers, but everything else is the trending subject right now. I also I also ask people to think about, obviously Hawaii is covered everywhere, but people really do got to look at what is going on that's not being talked about. There is obviously some big changes happening. There is some sort of big operation going with this whole thing with our former prez. And then, of course, there's laws being put in almost every day. There's different things that are getting passed that's going to change our lives. So keep track of that too. We need your help. The Foogle fam, if you keep your eyes peeled, make sure to email us, adam@marfooglenews.com, dex@marfooglenews.com. If you see something crazy happening and nobody's talking about it, send it to us. You can also send your videos to marfooglenews.com/playmyvideo. If you have original video that is yours, you can easily upload it to YouTube and then send the link to that. And then China watching closely as U.S., Japan, South Korea aim for de facto Asian NATO. So it says that China is said to be on high alert as President JB hosts the leaders of Japan and South Korea at Camp David this week to deepen technological and defense ties. It says building what some observers have called a de facto Asian NATO on China's doorstep. South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol and Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida will be joining JB on Friday at the U.S. presidential retreat in rural Maryland for the first three-way summit of its kind. So I have to stress, this is a three-way summit where the Japanese Prime Minister and the South Korean president they are literally going to be visiting in a private setting at Camp David at the retreat with JB. Something is being planned out. Watch Japan. Watch Poland. There was already a big meeting between JB and the Polish president. That whole thing with the train that went there, all that, there was something that went off. Now you have a very private and very, very secretive setting there because they can do whatever they want. And there's a whole private wing of the Camp David that they could literally do anything behind closed doors there. So something is up. I don't, this to me screams like they are about to work something out. And I don't think that JB is going to be like, here's the plan. I think it's going to be the people that run JB and the people that run them are all going to go over what their part in this play is going to be. Watch Japan. I'm telling you, Japan, South Korea, Poland, these are places where things are very likely to kick off. That's my opinion after talking to many active and retired military, and I think they're right. I really do. This is the first thing of its kind. You're getting these two countries extremely important and geographically important to this whole thing. If this is going to pop off, it's going to be after this meeting. And then secretive Taiwanese cruise missile able to strike deep into China may have broken cover. Dex. So first of all, on the Japan meeting, before we go into this one, what did you think about the three leaders meeting at Camp David?
You're definitely going to hear something come out of it. You won't hear right away. You'll probably just hear the lip service. But when you find out like 3 weeks later, 4 weeks later, there's a new funding bill for, weapons to Taiwan or new defense contracts for, SK in Japan, all of that coming out of that. And all of it being things that are to defensively or even potentially offensively upset China. That's exactly what I would expect to see from this. The only thing that could make this meeting even more, tension filled would be if Tsai Ing-wen, the president of Taiwan, was actually there as well. But yeah, this is definitely one that Xi is not happy with at all.
So as far as Rip Curl, by the way, thank you for being here, and James McGowan, thank you for being here, and again, Rip Curl, thank you for showing up. And let's see here, Forgiven Disciples here, Stephanie Munoz, Dangerous. Thank you. Oki Khan, Willie Hunt. Japan is not kind to the Philippines either. And Japan, what an enemy if you ask any of the World War II veterans that fought versus Japan. Japan, man, I can tell you there's probably a lot of people that are very thankful they're on our side. These guys during World War II literally took their own lives to take people out. There was a lot of American soldiers that said that they were extremely dedicated fighters. So kind of glad that they're on our side this time. And then Monk Me, thank you. Heavy Ordnance. Sorry, you guys. What the heck? Speaking of kitties, this we call her Tweak. Look at her eyes. She's just crazy. Tweak. That's the mama. I don't know. I don't know if I would jump in a fire for that one, but I do love her. I do. She's just a pain in the butt. And she is a meower. And then the secretive Taiwanese cruise missile able to strike deep into China. Just to go over kind of a part on this, is a newspaper in Taiwan has published pictures and video clips that says it offers the first ever look at the Hsing Fang E-land attack cruise missile. This missile has reportedly been in Taiwanese military service for more than a decade, but has never been publicly seen in this time. It says that it is one of the number of secretive counter-strike capabilities that Taiwan's armed forces are understood to possess to try to help deter or respond to Chinese military intervention by holding targets on the mainland at risk. The report from Taiwan's United Daily News says that the imagery was captured during a recent nighttime launch from the Zhiping military base in Pengtung County at the southern end of the island. The Hsing Fang missile was understood to have been subsequently flown for many hours, according to UDN's report. A separate report today from Taiwan's semi-official Central News Agency says that an unnamed military source told the outlet that the Air Force did fire a classified missile on Wednesday as part of an ongoing 3-day live fire drill. So they're getting things ready that have never been seen before, and they are firing and testing them. Not exactly good for a non-war scenario. And then Dex, I don't know, we didn't ever talk about this one before. I went live on news, and what I thought of this one when I saw it was, what if they're hiding the youth data for China because the youth are doing something different, or possibly the reason why they're not working a normal job is because now they're getting pulled into the military. Very well could be totally wrong on that one, but what do you think about that?
They've been successful at not not requiring military service. I think their military has always been volunteer. That could change at any time, and maybe that has. But this is definitely one of the key indicators of their economic strength or their economic failure, whichever way you want to look at it. This is obviously as a bad sign. We've seen that as data starts to be scrutinized or used against them to sort of look and say, look at the problems that are with their economy, especially in the public companies, publicly traded companies they started to pull that data offline. They said, hey, you can no longer see this. We're not going to publish it out for people. We're going to put it over here in a private area. And now they're doing that with this. And this, specifically is the fact that their youth unemployment is through the roof. Like, they don't have enough jobs, is at least what it's been reported. And this isn't the first time. People have been talking about this for 6 months now. But now they're taking the data and pulling it offline. I don't know if that means that, again, they're trying to hide the negative news, or, like you said, maybe they're doing something different and we just don't know about it.
Yeah, as far as the narration of this, it kind of sounds like they're just straight up hiding it. Why would they do that? Is it because they're worried about investors, worried that they have high unemployment rates? I don't know. It seems like a weird thing to hide. I don't know. Why would it be so important that the youth are unemployed? Is it a pride thing? I don't know. But I do think it's weird. What if all of these 18, 19, 21-year-olds are, I don't know, getting pulled into the military to get ready for a surprise strike, and they don't want anybody to know about it? It's a weird thing to hide. And usually, like a lot of these things, it will end up being something like this. It will be what it looks like. Many things have. And then vast swath of northeastern China threatened by flooding as rivers rise above warning levels. A vast swath of northeastern China is threatened by flooding. At least 90 rivers have risen above warning levels, and 24 have already overflowed their banks, state media reported on Tuesday. There's many different events happening right now, including the heat wave. Like, we have a heat wave right here. There's fires. There's the Hawaii stuff. There's all of these natural events going on. And there's many different kind of camps talking about why this is happening. There are people that believe that something is being twiddled with to make everybody go, oh yeah, everything's changing, right? The great change. Or there's other camps that are like, well, regardless if it's caused by man or if it's caused by something that's going to happen cyclical, it's definitely happening. It's changing. Something is going on right now. And this could be a tit for tat, like I said. And people don't, even if you say that, people go, whoa, what do you mean? There have been systems in place and technology in place for decades that could edit and alter the state of what, comes down on us or shakes us or wipes us out of off of land by sea. There have been all of those things. They even had an agreement to never use these kind of things. It makes me wonder about events like this. But just not to sound crazy, if this is something that the world is going through, it is most definitely getting worse. And I do have a part of my brain that thinks, what if things are getting worse and worse and worse, and maybe they know something we don't? Maybe that's why they're trying to go to Mars, why they're trying to get off this planet, or why they are building extreme bunkers that are airproof and even waterproof in some cases. Maybe it's why they're buying $2 billion submarine yachts that literally are a combination of both. I don't know. But one thing is for sure is there's all sorts of crazy weather events all over the world right now. And if it's either of the kind of ways here, it's kind of freaky. If you think about it, they have said all of these crazy things like, mainstream media has basically told us it's the end of the world. They said 12 years until chaos and this and that. Who knows if that's right? But there is something in the back of my head thinking, like, how bad is this truly going to get in the next 10 years? And is it going to do this so then we can be easily restricted, and so they can say, hey, you now you can't travel more than 100 miles per year or something, or you're only limited to one plane trip a year to, reduce your footprint. I don't know. But one thing I do know for sure is these disasters, the level that they are going on in China, that's why people prep. These things were unexpectedly crazy. Dex, the pictures and the stuff that's being shown, I mean, it's insane. The same time that all of these fires are going on all over the place, over there, they have the opposite. They are dealing with water upon water. They're being flooded out. And this is also going to affect food.
And it's not just a one-time event in the sense that, like, well, we report on it for a couple of days and then it's over and it dries up and everything's done. This has been going on for a while. It just keeps getting worse. Sometimes it backs up, sometimes it doesn't. But the amount of flooding that has happened there and that we've reported on has been tremendous. And even what we're talking about now is something we were talking about weeks ago, and it's still going on. It's still happening. As they said, 90 rivers and 24 have already overflown their banks. So pretty significant outbreak, I guess, if you want to call it that, of, weather phenomenon in China and into their country, and not something that we normally hear. Like, this isn't every year you hear about this. It's not. So all of a sudden it adds to the mix of all these strange different things that are just happening in our weather around the world.
A couple of people said tribulation's at our door. That there's also the fact that, there's a lot of folks that think that this is signs of the times, a literal signs of, apocalypse coming, rapture coming, whatever you may think it is. We're definitely seeing things over the last 5 years. I've covered a lot of events. The weather and these strange events with animals and, massive die-offs of animals, the bees, the insects disappearing. Like, I don't know, it's starting to look a little biblical here, but it's all in perspective. And then 17 said the war to end all wars. Yeah, this one may be that one. Somebody said that it's easier to control less people. Just ask Gilly. Yeah, I bet. And that is his official opinion. Heck, he's got a TED Talk all about it. So if we do a really good job, we'll reduce the pop by so much. And then before we talk about the brick situation, I do want to remind you, there is a way to back up your own power and to back it up in a really, really awesome way. If you don't know what solar generators are, they get their power. Either you can charge them like a giant battery bank from your wall, or you can plug in solar panels. It's extremely easy. If you go the solar panel route, you just literally put solar panels anywhere there is sun. You plug one cord into your solar panel, and then you can daisy chain them if you have more than one, and then you'll be bringing in power. Especially when you have power right now, you can get free energy, then store it. Then when your power goes out, you can turn this on and just continue as business as usual. Solar generators are amazing, but there are a lot of brands out there. This is the reason why I love Energy. I've tried their major competitors, which I believe there's only one that comes close. But this even has a level above that, in my opinion, because this is a modular system that now has the ability to turn into a UPS, turn into a triple input supercharged system. You can get accessories that are low power, almost take nothing, that can essentially do everything you need to survive. So this is a really cool system. It can be expanded up to 96 batteries. Solar is silent. So if you want to be a gray man, this is definitely a good option. Nobody's going to hear you from 3 blocks away, let alone 30 feet away. These things make basically zero sound unless they're at like full capacity. Then a little fan goes on, but you're not going to hear it outside of a room, let alone outside of a block. Go to marfugglenews.com/energy. This is the same company that has now won the SBIR military contract. They are going to be shipping these out for the U.S. Army. This Flex Tactical is their new one. This one is like the top of the top. This has built-in heaters in every battery. It has 1,500-pound latches. It also has a ground built in. You can actually, it has right off of the side there. This thing is made to be tough. It's got a steel reinforced casing. It could be dropped off a truck and still be going. So again, this thing is the top of the top. If you want to go and look at that, I would highly recommend getting your name on the list for one very soon. Go to marfugglenews.com/energy. Again, that was help designed by the Air Force Research Laboratory, and that thing is bad ass. So go to marfugglenews.com/energy and make sure to use the code Marfoogle. Not only will you get a savings, but you'll help our small channel. Thank you so much for doing so. And even if you don't end up doing that, make sure to go to their website, check out the current deals for smaller systems too. If again, there's lots of great things there, so check it out. All right, and then before we go to this, BRICS currency replacing the dollar is, quote, a ridiculous idea, says the top economist who named the group, unless China and India become allies. So this is literally the guy who dubbed it BRIC, and then it turned into BRICS because South Africa joined. This is the same gentleman who has been quoted time and time again. He has been right so many times. And essentially what he's saying is that there's no way BRICS will work unless India and China team up. And I have been saying this for now years. This would be the motivation for them to actually put things aside and say, okay, we're good. We're going to negotiate. We're going to say, okay, the Himalayas, whatever, this area is yours now. We're good. Would China give them all of the land that they've been wanting for all of these decades, generations, however long that they've been fighting over this border dispute, say, hey, you can have it, but you need to be on our side, and we're going to take Taiwan, and we want this space. You guys get that one. You get a seat at the table. You get your land back, but you got to be at our side, and you should be, because when we win, you better not be our enemy. This is a huge country. India, 1.4 billion, just surpassed China, and they have nukes. So they are not somebody that we want joining China. Everybody goes, oh, they're mortal enemies. They're never going to be friends. Money does everything in this realm. If they make some sort of deal with them, and if it does look like BRICS is going to take over, then I bet you they're not going to make the stupid decision and go down with the sinking ship. Everybody is talking about the dollar collapsing. Everybody is talking about collapse in general. And if you think that none of these things are happening, dollar collapse, weather, World War III, all of these different things that are happening all at once, if you think none of those are happening, then I think, again, like somebody's screen name here, you are in denial. People want to hate and say, oh, you just fear. This isn't fear. This is facts. Like everything that is happening right now, I have called this for years, and now look at it. They're basically making it very clear. All the experts are weighing in. They're saying that this will not work unless India and China make friends. That is the motivation. Everybody said when I said, I think India is joining China. They have the SCO, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, where they're financially tied heavily. And if they, again, this thing won't work without them teaming up. They have been drilling alongside China. Their military and China's military have been drilling alongside each other because they're both allies of Russia. I have called this for years, and now it's becoming very clear why they would put everything aside and join forces. Because if BRICS and this whole new system that's coming in is going to have somebody else at the very top, then I bet you they're not going to be wanting to be under China's thumb. They're going to want to be partners, and that's what they're telling them that they're going to be. They're not going to be number 6, 7, 5, whatever they are now. They will be number 3 or number 4. Dex, have I not been talking about this for years? And now, like, common sense patterns that I see happen, like the China and India backing up and removing their military from the borders. That's so strange. After 40 years, they're just going to remove everything. Like, they're not tripping over the border anymore. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, the relationship there has been weird in the sense that, like, at times that they're enemies and other times they're not, and a lot of that's changed recently. So, some things to take into consideration when you think about BRICS. Like, I don't, and I am not a financial guy, but I would say when I look at this, I sort of go, well, BRICS isn't going to just completely take the dollar away. But if it actually comes to fruition and it's successful, it'll be a competitor to the dollar. That's the point, I guess. And when that happens, it means the dollar is no longer the dominant. Right now, it's absolute dominant. It would then have competition. When you think of these countries from like a GDP perspective, if you were to add up China, Brazil, Russia, India, and South Africa, you have the same GDP as just the U.S. But when you look at the US dollar, it's not just the US. We have all of our allies. You start layering in Japan and Germany, the United Kingdom, France, which all have large GDPs, and even Canada. And it's significantly more. So it's not like overnight it's going to just completely decimate the dollar and there will be no more dollar and we'll all be trading BRICS. But at the same time, it is significant if it happens because it will create a fairly large GDP chunk that could be trading without worrying about the US dollar backing their currency. And that's a significant change but then the other side to think about this is look at how long it took the US to gain dollar dominance across the entire globe. It took many, many years, probably a century or more, if you think about it. So the question is, will they be able to pull that off at a significant level in a short amount of time, or is this a long haul? Are we going to see this? And then the third thing I would layer into this is what then does digital currency, what role does it play in this, and whether or not it's coming from BRICS or coming from the US or coming from a third party that sort of tries to be abstinent of governance, like crypto. And I'm not trying to be a proponent for crypto. I'm just saying that whole notion of currency and where the value lies, what layer will that play into this? And if that's significant, then you have potentially two players that are significantly eating away at the dollar's dominance. And at the end of the day, if any of these come to fruition, it's not going to look good for the US dollar. It's not going to be the end of the US dollar, but it's not going to look good. And it will erode our strength.
So somebody said the ruble's 93 cents to the dollar. Quit America hating. I'm not hating America. I love America. In fact, I'm very proud of America and Americans. I'm not proud of my current administration, which is usually puppets anyways. But what would the dollar matter? The dollar's not doesn't have a gold standard backing it. The dollar is literally created out of debt. If you know anything about currency, then our dollar could change overnight. Our dollar does change overnight. But say Peru, it's $3.72 for every dollar. Kuwait is the highest currency. The dinar, the Kuwaiti dinar, is literally basically $4 to the dollar. There's ones that are made. China is worth 14 cents. $1 in China It's 14 cents to the dollar in China, right? You could go and look at what it's worth, but guess what? It's all tied to, they're printing it out of nowhere. They created more money during CV crisis than they have in all of history. They literally printed more money during CV in just a few months than they have in all of history. And you don't think that that's going to have an effect? It's just basic math. I mean, this isn't rocket science. Anybody can tell you that this is about to go downhill. And you don't have to believe me. Go watch any of the actual financial experts that are looking at what's happening in the world. Geopolitics fits into all of this. I'm not an expert, but I also don't have to be a rocket scientist to see that things are collapsing. That's why I say I think it's harder to it's easy to fool a man. It's extremely hard to convince a man that he has been fooled. This is going downhill really fast, and that's not to make you afraid. You should be afraid on your own because you should have common sense and be looking around and going, oh, this is not going well. And you should be prepared for what happens next. That's what I think every adult that's over 18 and has a brain should be going, yeah, this doesn't look too good. I guess what is the argument? Oh, America's great. America's all good. The government's amazing. They care about us. They want us to do better than anybody else. Look at our entire system. Everything is screwed up right now. In almost every major city, people are looting the stores. The crime is at an all-time high. I mean, like this stuff is just getting nuts. And you can see the pattern of what is happening right now. It's really simple to see. Things are not going well for the U.S. And even if they secretly have a plan behind this, then somebody else is above the U.S. It's a group that is far bigger than the U.S. They are literally making every move to make us all under one umbrella. It was amazing to me during CV, all of the countries fell under one agency, essentially. Has 3 letters in it, starts with an H, ends with a HO, and that agency was able to essentially shut down the entire world. And that agency also is working with UN, the W and the E and the F, and they're creating things right now that will change our life forever. And who's letting them do it? Well, if we're so great, why aren't we stopping this? Why don't we have the freedom to say what we could 10 years ago? It's absolutely scary. And then Moscow shows off seized Western military equipment. All of the equipment that our tax dollars are going to is now being shown off in Russia. Said in Moscow region's Patriot Park, dedicated to the achievements of the Russian army, an officer wearing green cap stood in front of captured U.S. MX Pro armored vehicles. It says that it was abandoned on a battlefield because it stopped working, the serviceman told the Russian state agency TASS. He then turned to a British Husky vehicle, whose windshield was riddled with what seemed to be bullet holes, and around him, more Western military equipment was on display. An opportunity for the Russian army to flaunt its achievements and mock the counteroffensive that UKR launched in June. A few meters away, another Russian officer was showing a French AMX-10RC and its famously long anti-tank gun. It said that a collection of, quote, trophies that AFP journalists saw Tuesday also included an Australian Bushmaster protected mobility vehicle, a US M113 personnel carrier, and a Swedish CV-90 combat vehicle. It says, quote, a large part of the show consisted of British equipment, including Husky and Mastiff vehicles, as well as a Saxon personnel carrier, according to Defense Ministry Press Service. So they're showing off the stuff they got from battle, but that's expected. UKR has shown off their Russian stuff and said, well, we caught all of this. One thing that is changing, though, is mainstream is admitting that Russia is not failing. They're not, horribly losing or anything. And they say that this counteroffensive did not do what they thought it was going to do. It doesn't look like they said it was going to look. And then U.S. asks Iran to stop selling drones to Russia. So, Dex, I wonder if they're going to go, oh, sure, bud. Yeah. Oh, totally. We're going to stop selling them right now.
I wonder how many billions we're going to offer them for this. If we were exchanging 4 or 6 billion for you know I don't call them hostages, we'll call them prisoners because I guess that's what they are, the detained U.S. citizens. But I wonder if they're going to offer billions to them to stop selling, because obviously they are. They've been producing. They go through the back channels through the Caspian Sea up into Russia, where they really go untouched because in the Caspian Sea they can leave their land and port into Russia's land and have basically no interaction. Um, and no confrontation in doing it. So that's what they've been doing to supply these drones. A lot of which we've reported quite a bit that they've Russia's been using quite a bit of them, and even went so far as to build their own factories to assemble from the parts that are coming in from Iran. So yeah, it seems kind of humorous from the headline point of view. Like the U.S. says, stop selling them to them. Like they're just going to listen to us. There's probably more to it that maybe at some point we'll hear of a deal. I don't know that we're going to like the deal if a deal is even made. I think at the end of the day, these are all tactics that can be used in conflict. But at the end of the day, Russia's going to have their capabilities, whether we ask a country to participate in it or not. It's still going to happen.
Yeah, and even if they said that they were going to, they would still probably do it on back channels. And yeah, if we do end up offering them money or whatever else, guess what that money's probably going to go to? They're going to like, oh, let's put this in the Destroy America Fund. Probably a thing. And then thank you for the folks that are, I guess, trying to explain some of the stuff, like, as far as why our dollar is literally tied to just nothingness. There's no back. It's pretty crazy how the money system even works. The deeper you go digging, you go, oh crap, what is this? It's all based on, and by the way, our dollar is directly tied to something they say they're going to cut out of the picture. Our dollar is the petrodollar, right? But they're telling us they're going to literally cut petro out of the equation. How is petro, what's been running the planet this whole time, how is that going to switch to something else without this whole system collapsing and being rebirthed? The W and the E and the is talking about a reset. In fact, it's going to be a great one, right? And this isn't some theory. This is literally, you can type in the and the reset, and you will find their plans. It's not a secret. It's not something that some crazy came up with. It's their plan. This is happening right now as we speak. I mean, it's coming, and nobody's stopping it. There's no protests. Nobody's breaking windows for this stuff, and it will happen because there's no pushback. I sometimes I just don't get it. Dex, go ahead.
In my mind, I think they're trying to redefine the term greenback. And if we shift away from petro, it's because we're going to be shifting towards these other things that they've talked about in the change, whether it be energy as defined by electricity and captured, or even go so far as to talk about carbon, which we know they've tried numerous times to get people to buy into that whole notion. And if that would become the way they could back everything up, that's my speculation on how they would shift away from oil, which, like you said, it is the most, the petrodollar as the term used, it's the most dominant part of value in the U.S. dollar, one of the most significant ones. So, yeah, if that all goes away, what do they swap it out with?
Yeah, exactly. How is this all going to go forward? How are we going to cut that out of the equation when that is literally the equation? Somebody said it's a sad sign when great is censored. It's not great. It's all three together. When you do that, what's absolutely insane, you say that all together, it puts a literal notice and tags it and says, this is this. It's a normal, totally safe, totally cool plan by the and it's totally fine. all these crazy people have basically said that, it's a bad thing, but it is a bad thing, and it will tag it. There are certain subjects that it tags, and we don't truly know what that does to the video or whatever else, but it happens all the time now. It happens during live shows. You guys have been watching. We won't even be talking about the CV, and it will be like tagged with something like that because the computer messes up and thinks we're talking about it. Remember that, Dex? They tagged us with the CV stuff, and that episode we weren't even talking about it. And it clicks. It's like, this is talking about this. Are you sure you want to watch? It's like, this is so lame. And then the new video shows Russia fail to stop a UKR drone boat. This is one that already happened, right? But we're covering this because the video came out of this. We've actually covered these drone boats. The motors are manufactured by Ski-Doo. Ski-Doo doesn't actually make them, but these things are essentially bombs on a boat. And they rolled in. Now, there's some things here. Let me make sure that I've got this. Let me see if I've got this set up right here. So I'm fairly using. Okay. And then here is Slava puts this out. This is basically a video of the boat, right? That's the boat rolling. That's called a Sea Baby, right? So that's what they look like. They're either gray or black or camo. And there was these videos that have come out. Now, I'm got to be careful on which one, but this was a video that came out. CNN actually put this out. And isn't it funny? They always get these kind of exclusives. How did they get this? This is from Russia's cameras, right? And I'll just go through some of the screenshots here. It shows the boat. Zoom in here. Shows the boat. Boom, right there. And then kabooey. Boom. And everything goes white. For some reason, it's, I guess it makes sense that it's night vision, right? But if you look, it's actually cropped. And you see this bridge, and it goes kaboom. And they're essentially, it took them a month or whatever to pull this out. Why this is necessary, I don't exactly know. Why, did people not believe this one? There was no, real theories about this, that it wasn't actually a boat. So I guess they just got a video like this for ratings or something. I don't know. Can you guys think of any reason why they need to even show this to us a month later? Other than to be like, yeah, we're kicking their butt. I guess it makes them look good. But I don't know. Meanwhile, though, that we've even had our side and our Pentagon and different officials come out and say, just so you know, the counteroffensive wasn't going so hot, and it did pretty badly, actually. So not looking great for UKR. Of course, then we also have folks like Colonel McGregor essentially saying that UKR is wiped out right now, which is not good for anybody. But definitely not bad for Russia. And before we move on, I do want to remind you, if you don't have backup food, we have a great resource for you. Go over to marfuglenews.com/prep. This is freeze-dried food that will last 25 plus years. So again, this is something that everybody should have, at least have backup food in their house, but many people do not. This is, again, food that will last 25 years. It's easily stored. It takes up very little space because it's freeze-dried. It's essentially vacuum-packed into Mylar bags, and it's sealed for long-term storage. So these are great because you can get a lot for very little. This is, again, marfuglenews.com/prep. They don't only just have food, though. They have gadgets. They have survival books because you won't have a Google to look up what mushrooms to eat or what insects are safe. These are all things that you will need if our grid goes down or if any kind of events, whether it be SHTF or just a simple regional disaster. If you have something like an earthquake or a hurricane or anything, you should have backup food regardless of any known thing that's coming. You should just have this just in case. So this is a great way to do it. You're going to get a giant discount, and you're going to be helping our channel at the same time. Dex, I don't know what they're doing right now, but if you can check before the end, what the current deal is, that would be very helpful. And then
Still 25% off a 3-month supply,
which is more than it was. So that's again, 25% off is, I believe it's over $200 off. So make sure to go check that out. marfooglenews.com/prep. And then Ukraine situation report, NATO officials suggest surrendering land to Russia for membership. What kind of who-duggery-do is going on here? Dex, do you want to go over this? They're actually suggesting giving it up. But watch. That way they can say, oh, well, we actually suggested peace and giving them some land. But then UKR, and we don't have a statement from UKR yet. There might be now, as of the filming of this. If you're watching this later, there probably is. I bet you Zelensky's going to come out and say, no, Slava Ukraine, and no, we will never give up not 1 inch, and it's a stupid idea, and we're going to take them back, and blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, a lot of experts, doesn't matter what bias they have, they're looking at this and going, how does this actually end? How do they solve this problem? Do they give the Russian-speaking part to Russia and then back to peace? I don't think that's going to happen, because I think they're going to need this to go longer. And by they, I mean the people that are running this planet want this to go until it causes something else. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Dex, what do you think?
Well, apparently, Jen Stoltenberg's comments really did get everybody all sort of up in the air. I think he was probably, thinking out loud or brainstorming out loud in a conversation, which he probably shouldn't have been doing when he made this statement. But he was basically saying, yeah, there may be a situation where we have to, trade territory and get in exchange for NATO membership. And he was referring to how to get, and this is my opinion now, that a statement like that is referring to how to get UKR into a peace negotiation with Russia, so that once they're in a peace negotiation, then and out of conflict, then they could join, because they don't want them to join if they're in the middle of a conflict. That's always been the case. But what's crazy is that, they reiterated, NATO as a whole, with all their leaders at their meeting, reiterated, hey, we support the complete sovereignty of UKR and all of its territory, back in July when they had the big meeting. But then he turns around and makes these statements. And so there's a lot of different ways you can look at it. You can just say, maybe he was thinking out loud and he shouldn't have been, because he sort of, not prefaced it, but followed it up with I'm not saying that's what we have to do, but that should be the types of things we should be discussing about how to get to the negotiation table. And it's really up to UKR to decide how they want to negotiate. And that's how it sort of ended. But the line he put in there was kind of crazy. Now, another way to look at this is NATO might be sort of trying to signal to UKR, like, hey, we did this whole counter thing. We've sent all this stuff to you. We've given you tons of money, tons of everything, and we're not seeing the progress we need to see. So are they reaching the end of, or starting to reach the end of the rope? I doubt it. But that's one way you could look at this. But, I don't know where to go with it. It is definitely is one of those things that I'm sure upset Zelensky big time. And it definitely, got a lot of people buzzing, going, wow, he really said that. They can't give up territory as part of membership to NATO, because that's not, what's next. So that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, suggesting literally give them back, give them land is exactly what they said they would never, ever do. So I think this is all set up this way. This whole thing is just set up for this to keep going. Just a side note, we don't really talk about this stuff. We don't really cover it, but we've talked about it before in callers. Look at it still just gets me that the NATO symbol and then NATO OTAN. It literally looks like Satan, NATO, OTAN. Didn't somebody come up and say OTAN means something like evil? Either way, this whole thing. And then hidden inside the symbol is quite a famous symbol that wasn't very popular during WW2. But yeah, I don't think that it's all great people and they're high-fiving and making the world rainbows and ponies. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Janet Ruth, thank you so much. Says this offering for Stella. Again, I would definitely go to Ilea's channel and try to support over there, but I will pass that on. Thank you so much. I would say make sure to throw prayers up. And again, when somebody's dog is sick, it's really, really quite nasty. But I would say Ilea's channel is great. Ilea actually runs an animal conservatory of sorts. I don't know. I think it is officially a sort of, I don't know what you call it, but she has all sorts of animals. She has turtles. She has everything. So if you like content and really good people that love animals, Ilea's the channel to go to. She literally has all sorts of crazy animals, and she loves all of them. So make sure to go check her out on marfooglenews.com/friends. Again, she has a great channel. So probably has something with her dog in there. Dex, go ahead.
I just learned this myself, so I'm going to ask you, did you know what OTAN is for? Not what it means. I don't know what it means, like in other languages or other history, but why they use OTAN with NATO?
Well, because it's upside down. It's both
No.
sides of the planet, right?
No, it's because they support two languages, English and French. And OTAN is the acronym for Organisation du Traité de l'Atlantique Nord, which is the French version of North Atlantic Trade Organization, or Treaty Organization. So that's why it's OTAN. I didn't know that. I just looked it up. I was kind of curious, like, what is OTAN? And that's because they claim they support two and recognize two official languages, English and French. And OTAN is the French acronym for NATO.
And I think it's probably some 33rd something or other. Who knows?
You're probably right. That's just what they said. I'd never heard it before. I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, what are the odds that it would line up with that, all that? I mean, they think of this kind of stuff. There's symbolism everywhere. And for anybody that's like totally skeptic of everything, they go, oh, sure, there really are symbols, and they do think of this kind of stuff. Geez, if people don't believe that there's like stuff in Hollywood and things like this, go look at what they did for the movie Interstellar. That is so on another level. Like, there's the movie, and then there's the stuff they did for just the background of the movie. I was blown away. That movie, which I thought was actually a good movie. I don't know if it's an evil movie, whatever else, but holy moly. Every book on the shelf in that movie, they had something that tied into every book on that shelf, and there's like 150 books there. It's insane. They tied in the sound and the soundtrack to different things in the books and the things that were going on. The shots of space, you could literally keep zooming in. It took like every frame was like millions of megapixels or something that you could literally zoom into every frame, and it could keep going and keep going and keep going. It's like they made it a whole galaxy for each frame of the movie. They wanted it to represent as close to what real space would look like or whatever. Just go look at what they did. I can't explain it because I'm not able to repeat exactly everything. But there were all sorts of books that were on the shelf that they somehow made reference to. And it's like, if a movie like that, they had one guy go to college for like 4 years so he could study stuff so he could do the movie. Like, next level kind of stuff. And I don't know if they did it so they could tell that story so people would get hyped up about it. But I mean, like, this is way beyond like, oh, method acting, like he pretended to be the guy. This is like they went deep, deep, deep. And the same guy did other movies that are tied into all sorts of things. But there's stuff like that all over the place. Symbols, logos, from restaurants to fast food places. The more you dig, the more you'll go, holy crap, these people aren't crazy. It's just absolutely nuts. If you have one, mention it and share with others. Judith et Jean Francois, thank you for subscribing. Thank you, everybody that supported. including Ilea, Nana MT, Be Real Beast. By the way, thank you so much, everybody over on DLive. Thank you, Beer Juice, Kimbria, Poco Loco. Again, thank you, Badger1. Stop tossing diamonds at me, Shies, LOL. Scooby Doo Do Right, Data Clearing Brudda, Beer Sends Love. Hey, nice to see you. And then we have got Comet Moon, Scooby Doo Do Right, Poco Loco, Yobi, Zenato19. Thank you for your support tonight. Karen from Columbus, nice to see you again tonight. Priscilla R, always a pleasure. And thank you, Chance, for holding it down over there. Thank you, Jammer1, for giving everybody all of the appropriate links. Thank you. And then thank you, Milo and Samuel and Sharon Davis. It looks like Nana MT is probably going to be the number one supporter for tonight. So thank you, and thank you. And then, Dex, let's go over the web only. We've got a lot of crazy stuff there.
Yeah, we sure do. Don't go anywhere, folks. I got a lot of headlines to cover with you. So head over to marfooglenews.com, click on the thumbnail for the show, or open up that show notes link down below in the description. It'll take you right here to this page where you can find all the sources, the tweets, the videos, everything we talked about earlier in the show. And then you find this yellow bar. It says Overflow. So what's going on? Here's a little bit of what is happening in the rest of the news. So Google is reportedly building another AI. This time it's a life coach. Would you actually use AI as a life coach to give you advice on what you should be doing and what you should be doing next with your life? Let us know in the comments down below. I'm kind of skeptical of that one, but that's what they're claiming. There's a lot of other interesting things that are happening, such as this Argentinian primary, this guy who just won, Javier Milei. But what's interesting is his hairdo, and there's not a picture on the website, but you got to go look at the link. You didn't have to read the article. He's got some crazy hair, and he won. He won the event there. So a lot of people are sort of like baffled by it. It almost gives me an old Beatles kind of look.
BBC.
Who did he look like?
He looks like something out of a BBC movie or something.
Yeah, that's it. And it's definitely old school, pretty funny. But anyway, that's there. We've talked about the cartel. We talked about it last night, about them coming across with weapons and other things. There's another interesting story as they continue to dig in and publicize some of the stuff that's happening with the cartel. And there's one there about this hit person, and their age is shocking, and let alone what they do is shocking. So if you want to learn more about that, guess who may be back into the line of questioning from the police, and that is Alec Baldwin. Apparently, another report has come out, a forensic report, saying that the notion of a malfunction is not true, and they proved that there was no malfunction. So this could cause them to actually pull him back in and maybe look at charges. So I don't know if that'll happen or not. It's the early stages, but that's what the headline is talking about, and that's what the article explains. So if you want to learn more about that, man, LA and other cities, they're getting hit hard with crime, but this whole notion of these flash mobs like invading retailers, that's another one. So if you haven't heard about that, go take a look. And then they've put a pig kidney into a person, and it's been a month now, and everything is still working. So I'm curious, if you needed a kidney and couldn't get one, would you take a pig kidney? Is that an option for you? Would that be an option for you? Or are you just grossed out by the idea of another animal's organs being in your body? But doctors transplanted one, and it's still working. And I guess we'll see how long this lasts. Who knows? Maybe it's a life changer. I'm sure this person who needed it probably happy to have more days on Earth. We do have updates on what's going on in Russia, what's going on in UKR in Europe. So all of that is there. If you want to learn more about it, all of those headlines and links and articles that we pulled together are there for you. And then, of course, we've got what's going on with T-Man and what's happening in the who potentially is flipping. Some are saying Meadows is kind of flipped, although some are not. And then there's even some interesting things happening out on the legal aspect where some people like Meadows are trying to pull their case from Georgia into the federal side, which is an interesting position too, because that it offers different jury pool. It offers lots of different potential advantages if you think you have a strong case of innocence. and to get out of the state of Georgia, even though, and the reason they can do that, just for if you want to understand why, is when they were acting in their position, like for example, him being chief of staff, he was acting at a federal level as sort of an employee. And his actions were all of that. So therefore, he can make a request to have the federal government's judicial system oversee him, even though the laws that they're applying against him are Georgia laws. So they would still take the Georgia law, but they would not use Georgia state courts to do that. They would move it to a federal. So that's that's interesting legal stuff that's happening. If you're interested in that, it's all there. And they're calling it a massive sea creature, but I'll go ahead and let the cat out of the bag. It's just a whale shark, which for me, it's just a whale shark because we actually have one in our aquarium here. So we've seen them and they're cool. But for a lot of people, they've never seen a whale shark. But if you're out swimming off the coast of Texas and all of a sudden giant whale sharks are swimming around you, that's something that a lot of people have never seen before. So kind of a crazy experience. So if you want to see that and so much more, we've got it all. Even an EpiPen update, not a lot, but there's a little bit there of what was being said about the Virgin Islands governor. That's on there and much more. Just head over to our website. You can get the rest of the story. There's a lot there. We put it together for you every night. I know a lot of people think it's for it. A lot of people tell us, hey, I go use the website. I look at that. It's great news. It's a lot more information than you guys can cover in the short amount of time that we do try to give you everything we can.
Well, you did just kind of summarize the whole thing, so now they don't need to go, right? I'm just kidding.
Oh, there's
a ton
great
more
details inside every one of those. So go take a look.
And all of the Trump stuff is over there, so make sure to utilize it. And it again, something that needs if you have resources that you need to use there, they're all at your fingertips. So make sure to utilize it. Also, go check out at the top. You have the play my video there. If you click that, you can submit a video. If you have something cool, send it in. All right, you guys. Thank you so much, Dex, for your service tonight. And I just put in the chat, dropping him for the mods. Thank you, Dex.
Yeah, much love. Great job, brother.
Alrighty, you guys. And much love to the mods. Make sure to go check out their channels over on marfugglenews.com/friends. All right. And thank you so much, Nana MT. I believe you're the top supporter tonight. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And it is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro. We're going to make a fresh one for Nana. Nana. Kadinana, I said my boy, Anna, I know Nana, oh, ah. Kiki, ah. Kiki, gray, Gigi, gray, Gigi, gray, ah, la, la, la. Got the Victor on the tank, Victor on the corner, a Drew Dyrus, and the stage are there, Jonathan Flowman. Here we go, everybody already know David. DWD Davis, away and Tamara S, and the Carrick Red, fire music, hey, I with it Susan Big, dancing with the emoji wheel, ha, everybody knows this, la 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 la.